So in this lesson, this is lesson 3 in module 3, we're going to be talking about how to hire a web developer. So I've mentioned this in the past. There's something that's very common amongst Montessori schools to be using, sort of free or volunteer services to put their website up. This comes from, I would say, an attitude that, a website's not all that critical. You just need something up online. And I want to say that is actually probably was the case 20 years ago. Sometimes people say, like a website's kind of like a business card, and nobody really puts too much stock in a business card. The thing is that a website is not just a business card. It's not remotely anything like a business card. Just because your contact information is on your website, a business card and a website are so vastly different in terms of marketing and how much value they can actually generate for you. Business cards are, who really likes to collect business cards today? It's not a very common thing. So business cards have sort of fallen off the map as far as being all that important, really, as far as a marketing strategy, whereas your website is so important. And on top of that, your website has the ability to create so many different opportunities and ways to engage prospective parents and also your enrolled parents. There's so many ways you can use the technology of a website. So what I want to talk about is how do you find somebody? What's the type of service provider you want to work with? So using parent volunteers, I'm going to say, is just something you should try. You should just, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people to get their heads around because a lot of schools have great volunteers. You should really avoid using parent volunteers to manage your website. It's okay if they're really, if they're experts in web design. A lot of schools have parents that come from that background, and that's great. So getting your website off the ground, can be done well with a parent volunteer for sure. The problem is you run into, there's some common issues with that. So first of all, you're going to get hit or miss sort of results from not just parent volunteers, but any volunteers, because if somebody's good, they're usually busy and in high demand, and so they're going to be sort of having to prioritize their clients or their employer. So getting people's sort of volunteer hours after or around work or their client work is not getting somebody's best work. So that's one thing to consider. In addition to that, parents don't stay with you for that long. Usually I think on average a parent is with the school for 3 or 4 years, depending on the length of your programming. Almost daily, I talk to schools that have a website that is really out of date, and the people at the school, like the admin or even the owner of the school, they don't even know how to log into the site to make an update. And when I ask them, because we're trying to support them at Hubley, and they have to sort of figure out how to get into the website. It's just it's a bit of a, so not only when you think about again, you might have a great parent that is a wonderful web designer and really understands the market, spends the time required to learn what a school website should be, as opposed to a different kind of company or a different market, because websites should be different according to different market and different purposes. So let's say they're great, they spend the time, they do a deep audit, they figure that out, and they're a great designer and they make you a great website. All this stuff is wonderful. But the other thing too is, are they treating you like a client, expecting to potentially be handing off the website they've created to you or somebody else? Have they trained you on how to use it? So there's 2 different considerations. One is short term, can you get a website up and running? Of course, if you don't have a website, really just do anything you can. You should have some kind of website online. I don't think I've ever met a school that doesn't have some kind of website. But the second thing, you have to think about long term. So really, you want to try to find a service that is affordable but also gives you high quality. So there's a certain type of service provider that does that, because you don't want to sacrifice on quality of the website. There's so many different things that that go into making a website useful and valuable for a school. Things that are technology based, things that are content based. So you want to think about getting somebody that's good, getting a service provider or a consultant that's good, but will also have a support relationship with you long term. And if you can find that, and you can negotiate something that's, first of all, you want to make sure that is their business model. You want to make sure that they're set up to support clients for long-term relationships, so that you know that if anything goes wrong or if anything needs to change, you can talk to them, call them, email them, and get updates made that you need. And the other benefit to that is that if you have a long-term relationship, it allows those types of service providers to make it easier on your cash flow. You don't have to pay all up front at once. So that's one of the things we do at Hubley with our clients. It's just the type of relationship that allows the school to get that high quality without having to pay everything up front and then be left in 6 months, sort of holding the bag if something needs to change or something's not working. You want to make sure you've got that service provider to reach out to or call to make changes. So that's another thing that's really important. So focusing on high quality service providers that understand what a school needs, while at the same time making sure that you're setting up a long-term relationship with them. A school website has enough opportunity to generate value if it's being implemented the right way, that it makes a lot of sense to pay a monthly fee to maintain it properly, because it's going to create a margin in the bottom line of the business. Now, here's the flip side of that. A good website, used the right way, designed properly, being used strategically, can have an incredibly amazing impact on your business. A website that's not being maintained well, out of date, not well designed, it's not it doesn't just sit there neutral. It doesn't have a neutral impact on your business. It has a negative impact on your business. This is something that you have to actually do. This is not something you can kind of just let sit around. So I want you to understand that this is really important. The way prospective parents engage content today is online. And they're going to do Google searches. They're going to find you. Once somebody's interested, they're going to find your website. If your website looks like it's really out of date, and oftentimes I see websites that have like actual program information, which is like 1 or 2 years old, just because again they can't even log in because that parent left and they don't know how to get in and update it. So you want to make sure that your website is in a good, healthy sort of baseline, because when those parents, let's say they've even come in for a tour, or they're looking around at other schools, so they're going to see that your website's out of date and it's not being managed, and then that's not going to look good, especially if they compare you to another school in the area that has a well-managed website. Think about the appearance that gives off. So something very, very important to consider is who is going to be managing your website. Again, stay away from parent volunteers. They're wonderful people, but this is way too important to leave in the hands of a parent volunteer with and sort of hope and a prayer, hit or miss type of outcomes. And at the same time, make sure you look for a long-term service provider that will always support you, be responsive, and will always have your best interests in mind. So this is lesson 4 of module 3. The topic is, what is search engine optimization? And maybe even a better question is it relevant and important to you? So search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO, is a very well adopted online marketing strategy. So just to describe what it means is, so the analogy I give to people, to sort of compare current digital marketing using websites and search engine optimization to old school marketing like driving a car and billboards. So think of your website like a billboard, okay? And think of Google like a Google search. Like let's say somebody does a Google search for Montessori schools in Toronto. So the search results that come onto that page in Google is, in the analogy of the old school, that's like a street. So somebody chose to drive down a particular street called Montessori Schools of Toronto, and ideally you would have a big billboard about your school on that street. So again, today somebody doesn't drive, they drive, but everybody is, even if they're looking for something that's like in their area or maybe even on their street, where do I find a good coffee, anything that they're looking for, they go to Google. They do it on their phone, they do it on their computer, and they do it on their watches now too. So search engine optimization is it's not going anywhere, and it's incredibly critical to first determine if it is relevant to you. So one thing I want to caution you is that when you're running your school and you're really starting to plan your marketing, you open up shop and you start getting phone calls from local SEO specialists or consultants. Be careful, because there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there that will tell you you need to do search engine optimization. And that is a statement that is that you just can't make until somebody that's an expert spends some time researching keyword traffic and volume for keywords that are relevant to your school in your area. Okay, so the reason why I say this is because in having provided that service to a lot of schools at Hubley, what I can tell you is that a lot of the schools that wanted us to do search engine optimization and wanted to pay us to do search engine optimization for their websites, they were happy to pay us to do it, but actually it was totally irrelevant for them. And for some schools, it's very relevant because of the area that they're located, and there are a lot of people doing searches for relevant keywords. So as an example, again, using the Toronto, let's take a Montessori school sitting in Toronto. You'd probably, if somebody does you'd want to be found if someone's searching for elementary schools or preschools or daycares or of course Montessori, but you want to try to connect with parents that are interested in all of those things and searching for all of those different types of schools or care programs for their children. But what if no one's doing those searches in that area? Then does it make sense to pay an SEO expert to optimize your website? Like, what would they be optimizing it for? So so if you think about it, if there isn't anybody doing searches for anything relevant in your area, or there are some, but it's not that many, then paying somebody to optimize your website for those searches is kind of like paying to have a billboard on a street that nobody's driving on. So that's something you really, your marketing budget is going to be limited, and it's going to be very important that you use it in the most efficient way possible. So first and foremost, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, you need to do search engine optimization, make sure that, one litmus test is that the first step, the first service they're going to provide you is doing an audit and doing keyword research to see if it's going to help you. And it's fair that you pay them for that, because that's valuable information, and that's that takes a certain expertise that not everybody has. But that actually, so even if they charge you for that particular, first step, I would suggest, paying for that, because that's worthwhile. Hopefully they'll do it for free just to get your business in case you do need it. But certainly make sure that they present to you like their research and their findings, and that you can see that what keywords they found and how much search volume is happening on a monthly basis for like over the last year. And they want to show you the trends for that for those keywords, because so you want to make sure that you're getting you want to make sure you're seeing at least a search volume of 1,000 searches or more, unique searches or more for any one of those keywords. Okay, so if you're seeing that there's only, Google has certain thresholds that they'll show you between 0 and 100 or between 100 and 1,000. If it's not over 1,000, again, you have to remember, it's not like all those 1,000 people that searched for that keyword are the exact person that you want to even connect with. They might be people looking for jobs. They might be people doing research, right? So they're not necessarily the most ideal prospective parents. So again, you need to see at least 1,000 monthly searches on any of those keywords, and you need to see that proof before you go ahead and start paying someone to do search engine optimization. Okay, that said, let's say it is relevant. Let's say, okay, the research is in and there's a lot of search volume for relevant keywords for your school in your area, people that live in your area, then great. Then you definitely should optimize your site. You should invest in that, because that's going to generate the inquiries and the enrollment for you. Okay, so what does that mean? What is search engine optimization? Okay, so let's break it down. It's a combination of three things. There's content that goes onto the website, like the words that are typed on the page, making sure that that content, the strategic keywords, and again, that comes from the research to know which keywords are getting searched, what relevant keywords are being searched the most. You want to make sure that those keywords that are being searched are found easily around your web pages. Okay, then there's a certain way to do that, and it has to be formatted a certain way. But that's just going in and putting the actual words on the web pages. So it's just like, it's kind of very simple to do. The next part of that is the technology that's powering the website. Also has a lot to do with how well the website will be ranked on the search results. So you want to make sure that so there's content that's on the page, and also the content has to be placed in like meta tags and areas that are not visible to humans but are visible to Google when they're doing their searches. So that's another place where you want to be adding those same strategic keywords. And again, I want to reinforce, the keywords are not the ones that you think people are searching for. You need to know first that there's a lot of people actually searching for those keywords before you start doing any kind of keyword treatment on any pages. All right? It's not really what you think they're searching for or what you think they should be searching for. You want to know what they are actually searching for, and then you use that to optimize your pages so that you get found by them. Thirdly, there's things that can happen off of your website that will help your search engine ranking. So if there are other websites in the area that are willing to place a link to your website, that really helps with your search engine rankings. Okay, so the amount of links coming back to your website tells Google that this is a relevant website, and ideally, like those web pages that you're getting linked, that you're having links placed back to your site, those web pages should be as relevant to your school as possible. Okay, so ideally Montessori websites. And I would even say, other Montessori schools that are not necessarily direct, enrollment competition, but that are just, somewhat close enough that, you can connect with them and you can help each other and link back to each other's websites without hurting each other's opportunity for filling up your school. That's a great strategy, by the way. So when you go to conferences and you meet other schools, ask them if you can do sort of a link back relationship with them to help each other get found better. Something very helpful to do. Okay, so those are the three areas where the optimization happens. I'm not going to get too much into the technical side because it doesn't really make sense for you to be doing that, but I want you to be aware of what these service providers should be doing for you. And then when it gets to the website as well, so beyond the actual keyword optimization, placing the keyword on the page and in the meta descriptions, and there's the technology side. So how well your website performs as a website also has a really big impact on your ranking. So Google's very, very smart. They've got tens of thousands of brilliant engineers making sure that Google as a search engine, their one main sort of goal is to make sure that anybody that goes into Google and types in any words will find not only the most relevant web pages, but the best, meaning are those web pages user friendly? Are they relevant? Are they secure? So Google has released a number of updates to its very advanced algorithms. I'm not going to tell you that I understand how those things work. I don't, but I do understand how to use them. And so what you want to do is make sure that there's three main components of how the website's built that makes a really big impact on how well you get placed on those search engine result pages when someone types in Montessori School in Toronto. So one thing is making sure that your website is mobile friendly. What we say in the marketing industry or the web design industry is mobile responsive, or being designed mobile first. Why is that important? Because most of the searches happening on Google today are happening on a mobile device. So if your website does not look good on a mobile device, if it's not easy to find the information and it's not easy to navigate on a mobile device, on a phone, on an iPhone or an Android phone, then Google knows that. Google knows that, and they won't place you well on a mobile result page when someone does a search on a mobile device. They'll say, oh, this website is not mobile responsive, it's not mobile friendly, so we're going to drop it in the rankings and put a mobile friendly site up that's also relevant to that search term. So something that's very important to know, that simply being a mobile responsive website is really crucial to being found by your parents, because again, they're searching more on mobile than they are anywhere else. Secondly is having what's called a secure socket layer. So that's just standard encryption. You can get these for free. They don't cost anything. Any kind of web designer or webmaster, even a very junior or intermediate one, should know how to do this very, very easily. You want to have security on your website, because security is good in its own right, of course. You want to make sure you're avoiding scenarios where your website can be taken over by some Russian bot that decides to redirect it to something that's not maybe so, child friendly. And that's happened before. I've seen it. Not a nice thing for a school, certainly. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. And so aside from that, you want to make sure that, so Google, again, wants to know that they're providing the highest quality websites to their searchers. So one of those things that they started doing is rewarding websites that have a secure socket layer. So the way you know if your website has that is in the web address where it says http:// and then the name of your website, your domain name. If it says https:// if that S is there, that means you have a secure socket layer on that web page. So that's great if you have it. If you don't, it's free. Definitely get that as soon as possible. It'll help with your Google results. Thirdly is page performance. So what I'm talking about there is, this is really the technical side of the website. Ultimately, it means how fast do the pages load on when you click on them. So again, I don't want to get too technical with this. You just have to know that the page performance is another thing that Google looks at to say, okay, this is a good website. Number one, so they look. You do a keyword search. Google takes that on a very simplistic level. It takes the keyword and it starts going through its indexes for searches in your area to see websites that have that keyword throughout it, and if that keyword is placed in all the right places, that are visual to the actual human user looking at it and to Google's bots, in the background meta tags, then okay, it finds that page. Then it analyzes as well, oh, well, is this person searching on mobile? Yes or no? Is this website mobile friendly? So before it says, here you go, user, here's a great website, it says, oh, it's not mobile friendly, but this person's on mobile, so we're not going to show that one. So you want to make sure you're mobile friendly. Thirdly, it's also looking to see if you've got security on the site, encryption, secure socket layer. These all mean the same thing. So you want to make sure it's got that. Google's going to say, okay, these guys have the right content. It's relevant to the searcher. It's a good-looking website. They're going to have a good time using it. They're going to find the information they're looking for. And it's a secure site. Great. All of those things check. And it's got fast page performance. Okay, so if you've got fast page performance as well, you're in the best position to make sure that Google's pushing you to the top of those search results. All right. Again, another thing it's going to be looking for is to calculate the relevancy to that searcher. Are there other websites out there that are relevant to this search term and to this person that link back to that website? Because again, that tells Google you're more and more relevant. So it's all about getting up your relevancy. So that comes from the content, comes from other websites linking back to you that are relevant to those keywords, and really the user experience of your website for that person that's doing. I mean, if you think about it, of course, no one's paying Google to do Google searches, but that person is essentially Google's customer, and they want to make sure that they provide a good result for their customers that are doing searches. So you want to make sure that you're doing that too, and that's how Google will make sure that you get found by those prospective parents that are looking to enroll their child in your school.